Can you please take your seats? Everybody also was standing outside. Can you please come now? We'll start the session now. Second technical section of today. The presentation will be done by Mr. Kumar Sampath on the subject of benchmarking with live example of carrying out search analysis on database with practical approach. Mr. Sampath is currently working as a manager in transfer pricing practice of BSR and Company. He has been working in the transfer pricing field for past 7 years, and advising Indian and foreign multinational clients on their cross-border transfer pricing methods. He has advised clients engaged in various industries like pharmaceuticals, engineering, management consultancy, R&D, etc. He was associated previously with PwC and economic law practice. With this short introduction, I present before you Mr. Kumar Sampath, and as a mark of token of love and affection towards him, I will present the memento to him. Mr. Sampath.
Good morning, friends. So today's second session, having seen, I think the earlier presentation covered the various qualitative aspects of benchmarking. Now let's see how exactly we undertake the benchmarking on the databases. So before we proceed on that, let's just get a background of why is benchmarking required. So the need for benchmarking emerges out of the NATP rules as well as the requirements of the Act. Various methods prescribed under the Indian TP rules, be it cup method, resale price, cost plus, profit split, TNMM, any method. What does it say? To establish the arm's length price of international transaction, you will analyze the activities of the taxpayer, but ultimately the basis of determining whether the transaction are at arm's length or no would be an uncontrolled transaction. Uncontrolled transaction can be an international transaction of the assessee, or it can be outside comparables and engaged in same activities. Benchmarking is also mandated or forms part of the mandatory documentation requirements as mentioned in Rule 10D of the rules. So Rule 10D states that the assessee shall maintain the record of all the analysis undertaken to determine the arm's length price of the international transaction. So having determined the methods, the next step we proceed towards the benchmarking. So for the purpose of this presentation, we have assumed that TNMM is the most appropriate method and there are no internal comparables available. That is why we are resorting to the databases for selection of comparables. And in this presentation, we have covered two most widely used databases, which is ProVis and Capline, which are also mostly used by the tax department. So as a first step, having determined and characterized what the tested party does and what the AE does, and after selecting the tested party, as a first step on database search, we use certain keywords which allow us to source companies which are in the relevant industry. Maybe a different activity, but at least the relevant industry. Okay. Thereafter, once we have narrowed down the industry, we select the financial data of the company. So the question arises is whether you select a single year data or a multiple year data. The Indian TP rules as such require the use of single year data. So they say that data to be used in comparability analysis shall be the data relating to the year in which international transactions have been undertaken. However, they allow the use of multiple year data if and only if one is able to prove that the financials of earlier years have had an influence on the arm's length price of the transaction in the current year. Even the OECD guidelines and various developed countries like US, UK, they allow the use of multiple year data because the use of multiple year data helps to even out the product life cycles, the business life cycles and impact thereon on the transactions with related parties. However, unfortunately, most of the IT judgments under the Indian law say that you have to use a single year data and that too also relating to the year in which the international transactions have taken place. So, as we all know, the documentation requirements and forms received is to be filed by 30th November of the succeeding year. So let's say for 31st March 2013, 30th November is the due date. So latest by then we are supposed to conduct the benchmarking analysis, determine whether our transactions are at arm's length, and based thereon we are supposed to file the 3CG. But practically it is experienced that at the time of conducting the search, the latest data, that is the data relating to year 31st March 2013, is not available in the public domain for most of the company or quite a few of comparable companies. So as a practical approach, what is suggested is that at the time of conducting the TP study, we select the multiple year data, let's say 3 years data. So that also takes care of the business cycles, products life cycles. But nevertheless, having known that the TTO would require us to use the single year data at the time of assessment, we should attempt to source the data once it is available in the public domain and undertake a sanity check whether our search is still valid. And if in case of industries like engineering, IT infrastructure, where there are long-term contracts and all, there is a good case for using multiple year data. However, onus definitely is on the assessee to prove why he has used multiple year data and not a single year data. So thereafter, we use various.
At the time of assessment, then they get the current year's data.
So they issue a notice requiring us to update the margins with the single year data.
And what happens to our report?
So we contest, we explain to them why we have used the multiple year data and all that. But unfortunately, as I said, most of the IT judgments also say, no, the law is very clear that you have to use the single year data. So let's say in case of a company which is engaged in distribution of products and all, it's very difficult to prove how earlier year's data has influenced your internal transfer pricing. So in that case, we have no choice but to update the data. But mostly what is seen is that there is not much deviation when we use the single year data vis-a-vis when we use the 3 years data. So more or less it comes within the same range.
In the case of regular goods, but in case of cyclic business,
Yeah.
what do you say?
Yes.
Basically, see, right now the infrastructure is not booming. Okay, when the new government or the 10 years back, the
Yeah.
infrastructure was very boom.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that situation, what do you suggest?
Yes, we use multiple year data. Okay. Probably we may also show how the projections of the assessee are. So let's say it's a long gestation industry and it's in the initial years and incurring losses. So we may be able to show the projections like what they are over a period of time and how it is likely to turn into a profitable company over a period of time. And similarly, industry players or belonging to the same industry, they would also be equally impacted by the product life cycle and all that. So then there is a good case for use of multiple year data. Moreover, let's say when the assessment comes, okay, we would have the actual results for the next 2 years also. So on that basis also we can prove that yes, see, these were our projections and we are coming close to that. So that's a practical. Thereafter, based on the activities of the tested party, we apply various quantitative filters which narrows the entire industry set which we have got. So we use the various quantitative filters depending upon the activities of the tested parties. So let's say this insufficient data filter is normally used because only data up to maximum 2 years prior is allowed to be used. So in case any company does not have the data for at least 2 years preceding the current year, then definitely it does not form part of our analysis. Similarly, depending upon the scale of operations of the tested party, we also use the sales filter. This ensures that the scale of operations of the comparables is also similar to that of the tested party. So we do a like-to-like comparison because maybe in big industry players they would be benefiting from economies of scale and all that. So we apply a lower filter and also apply a higher turnover filter depending upon the turnover or the value of transaction of the tested party.
In case of service companies,
Yeah.
looking at the current scenario, will you recommend to apply turnover filter? And if yes, what is the range in which it should be applied for necessity having a turnover of 30 crores?
So maybe you can lower filter is generally 1 crore, that is what is applied. But on a higher side, we can apply 10 times the turnover of the tested party, depending upon.
But in case of service companies, you do feel that it should be applied.
Yes, because there also, even in case of service companies, economies of scale do kick in after a point in time. So definitely the size matters, and that is also accepted by the tax department, the use of higher turnover filter. Sorry? So generally, as I said, lower filter is 1 crore rupees we apply. So we select companies having turnover higher than 1 crore. But on the higher side, we generally tend to apply maybe say 10 times of the value of the international transactions. So if your company is having a 50 crore of value of international transactions, maybe you can select companies up to 500 crores. And thereafter also, having done that analysis, if we arrive at a set of final comparables, and if see, assessee knows his industry the best. If he is able to explain that it is not appropriate to take even those comparables, he may be able to say that no, they are very established players, and due to X, Y, Z reasons, they enjoy large economies of scale. So maybe then there is even a room for reducing that filter.
Because
Yes.
many times it is observed that there is no direct correlation between the sales and turnover. Many huge turnover companies have very low margins. So if you say that you prove that influence, that higher turnover companies have higher margins, which is practically not found. So there is a concern that whether it is really worth applying.
So margin is not the sole driver. It should not be the sole driver generally. So, but yes, that's the logic that we compare like to like. So generally we compare companies operating on a similar level of operations.
Generally, in the case of sales, we use 1 to 200, 200 to 2000 and about 2000. That could also be used, or 10 times, in few ITT judgments, some bad and straight.
It doesn't break it more than sometimes in a
come
lot
out
of
with
calculations.
certain, a set of range. So more than one, up to 200 would be one set of comparison. 200 to 2000 crore is one range, and about 2000 is free.
Yeah, so definitely both lower and upper filter would depend upon the scale of operations of the tested party. So let's say if a company is having a turnover of 500 crores, we may want to select only companies between 50 crores to say 1000 crores or 2000 crores. So that's quite possible. It's not that even the 1 crore filter is so rigid, the lower filter.
So we may use this also.
Definitely. So the next filter we use depending upon the activity of the company, let's say manufacturing or trading sales filter. So if the tested party is majorly the international transactions related to manufacturing activity, then we select only companies having this ratio of manufacturing sales to total sales greater than 75%. Sorry. Similarly, if the tested party is involved in trading activities, we only select companies which are majorly into trading. So if we apply the filter of trading sales to total sales greater than 75%, that helps to narrow down the set to select only companies which are into trading. Similarly, in case the tested party is involved in services, so then what do we do? Then maybe we can apply a reverse filter to say that reject all the companies whose manufacturing or trading sales is greater than 50% or so. See, all these filters are only aid to arrive at a narrower set of comparables. Ultimately, it all depends upon the qualitative analysis. Similarly, another ratio applied is wages to sales ratio. This is generally applied to select companies which are mainly into services industry like IT, ITES, because there the major cost is the employee cost. Similarly, export filter is also one of the filter which is very routinely used both by the taxpayers as well as the TPOs. Just to arrive at the companies who are majorly into export sales. So this takes care of the differences in the geographic markets. Similarly, in case of R&D to sales ratio, so in case if the Indian company, let's say it's a tested party, being a simpler entity, it is only performing the routine functions of normal distribution. It does not engage in any R&D activities. Definitely, it won't have the component of R&D cost in its P&L account. So we can apply the ratio of R&D to total sales and reject companies who have a R&D cost greater than a certain percentage. So the objective of these applying these ratios is to capture the FAR analysis of the tested party. So these filters are selected depending upon the activity as well as the scale of operations of the tested party, and that helps us to narrow down the set which we have used, which we have arrived at based on the use of industry filters. So having applied all these filters, what is the next step? The next step is the qualitative analysis. Thereafter, we probe deeper into the activities of the potential comparable companies which we have arrived at. So, what are the various sources which we do? That may be annual report of the company, websites of the companies, management discussion analysis part in the annual reports, notes to accounts, as well as maybe we may do Google search. That also gives a lot of research reports on the company, which helps to understand better the activities of the company. Many a time it is noticed that although based on various filters we arrive at a set of comparable companies, we do not get the exact activity, although there is an industry classification in the database. But purely looking at the database, we are not able to identify what that comparable exactly is into. That is why it becomes very important to see the website of the company. In too many cases, even the websites are not available, but definitely the financial statements of the company provide a lot of insight. So they also, in case there are any material significant events which have impacted the profitability during the year, all that can also be identified from the director's report and all that. Then we use the segmental data. So why do we use the segmental data? So there is a possibility that a company, so we use the segmental data for both the tested party as well as the comparables. For tested party, we draw the segmental data only to reflect the international transactions. So if a company is having both transactions with its related party as well as its independent business. For the tested party also, we only compute the margin from the AE segment, which is the related party segment. And similarly, in case comparable is engaged in more than one activities, and it is quite often witnessed so. So thereafter, we select only the relevant segment of that comparable company, so that the activities are comparable to the tested party. Thereafter, we come to the step of analysis of related party transactions. What is the need of undertaking a related party transactions? The income tax rules say, and specifically the TNL, it says that the net profit margin realized by an unrelated enterprise from comparable uncontrolled transactions. If we look at any of the methods, the focus is on the word uncontrolled. Even Rule 10A defines uncontrolled transaction means a transaction between enterprises other than associated enterprises. So the idea is that whatever data we use for comparability purposes should not be influenced by the relations between the parties entering into the transaction. Definitely, in case there are significant related party transactions, there is a possibility that the profitability may be influenced by the parties due to various factors, which may vitiate the profitability and may not give the true picture of the operations. For the use of TNMM, various ITAT judgments have laid down that yes, it may not be possible that there is absolutely no related party transactions of the tested party, because the quantum of transactions, if it is so low that even if it impacts the profitability, but it does not vitiate it so much that it moves away from the industry standards, then it is acceptable. And there is also a practical difficulty in obtaining the company which has no absolute related party transactions. That is why ITAT judgments have also accepted that yes, in case company is having related party transaction up to 25% of the sales, you may take that. But yes, beyond that, definitely no, because then there is a possibility that transactions may be influenced and the profitability picture may not be the correct one. While computing the RPT analysis, so a company will be having a wide range of related party transactions, but as we all know, in application of TNMM and margin computation, we only consider the operating income and expenses of the companies. So in case there are any items of income or expenses or maybe say other transactions on a capital account which do not impact the operating profit, then we are excluded from computing that 25% ratio. Similarly, another question arises is that how is that 25% ratio to be computed? So some people say you compute the sales figure only with the percentage of sales, expenses figure only with the total expenses. That's not the right way of doing it. We club all the items which impact the operating profit and thereafter compare that figure with the total sales of the company. So that's the way to do it. And, having done all this analysis, we arrive at the final set of comparables, and then the final step is the margin computation of the comparable companies. In the margin computation, we include only the incomes and expenses which impact the operating profit of the company. So there may be various income and expenses which may not be relating to the business of the company. There may be financing costs. There may be so various examples I have given here. So generally, in case of income, we do not consider profit on sale of fixed assets or interest received or dividend, as they are not considered for computing the operating profit, since they are not directly related to the activity of the company which we are testing. Similarly, in case of expenses, expenses like donation, finance costs, loss on sale of fixed assets, prior period expenses, they are not considered. Then, having arrived at the margins of the companies, we generally exclude companies which are consistently loss-making. And I think this question was asked in immediate previous session, whether that can be the only reason of excluding the companies. But yes, you have to see the historic data. If the company has been incurring losses year on year, and even thereafter we see the director's report, other financial information disclosures in the financial statements. Generally, even the directors do a discussion as to what is the future expectations. So even then the scenario is gloomy, then there is definitely a reason for excluding the companies which are into loss. Yes, loss-making comparables TPOs are quite happy to accept the exclusion, but high profit-making, no, they challenge it. So the question arises is that only whether a comparable can be excluded if it is on the basis that it is exceptionally high profit-making. In fact, there was a recent ITAT judgment of the Mumbai ITAT that was a special bench judgment, and one of the questions referred to the ITAT was the same question: whether a comparable can be rejected merely on the basis that it is exceptionally high profit making. So what the ITAT held? The ITAT held that no. Only the profit percentage cannot be the basis of rejecting a comparable if it is otherwise functionally comparable to the company. But we often witness that high profits are influenced by some other factors, like a company may be having some exceptionally good intangible, or it may be having synergies with other businesses of its own or group companies, which may be contributing to such high profits. Therefore, the onus of exclusion explaining the exclusion of high profit-making companies is on the assessee. Definitely, the TPOs are going to challenge it. So it's important that the reasons are evaluated in detail and documented, so that the same can be explained at the time of assessment. It's Maersk Global. Yeah, Maersk. So, having seen what are the factors which are to be taken into consideration at the time of benchmarking, let's proceed to see how the search is actually conducted on a database. So, for this case study, we have taken a case of ABC India, which is engaged in the distribution of medical equipment which are manufactured by its related party, which is based out of the US. So the related party is the main company of the group. It is engaged in manufacturing of medical devices, and it also owns all the intangibles, all the trade intangibles like the trademarks and trade names, and also invests heavily in research and development activities to come up with new products, improve the existing products. So the role of Indian entity is only limited to contacting the customers in India, selling the goods, and doing after sales service if and when required. Definitely, ABC India or the Indian entity does not own any significant intangibles and does not bear significant risk, so it is selected as the tested party. Just a snapshot of the FAR analysis of a comparative FAR analysis of the Indian entity as well as the foreign entity. So all the major functions like R&D, manufacturing are undertaken by the foreign parent. The intellectual property, which is an important asset, is also owned by the parent company, and it also undertakes the market risk because it remunerates or compensates the Indian company with a targeted margin depending upon the market scenario. So in case the market goes wrong and Indian company incurs a loss, at the year end the prices are revised to assure that the Indian company is ring-fenced from any market forces. So, having seen the FAR, what are the broad steps we undertake to do the database search? As we had seen earlier, we use various keywords to arrive at or to source all the comparable companies which may be operating in a similar industry, and thereafter we apply various quantitative and qualitative filters. So